Take a look at this montage, these photos. What do they tell you? What do they evoke in you? Generosity, forgiveness, a father and son, a physician helping, treat a third world person. These are all examples of virtues, of goodness, of things that I think we would all recognize as these are good things. Okay, now look at the next one. Yeah, good. We got that. Okay, what you saw there were examples of, I think, what we would all call evil. Okay? Murder, violence, rape, genocide, racism, lynchings. We see both in our world. So the question is, okay, what do we make of this? And especially this. What do we mean by evil? Because there's a lot of complaints sometimes about, how can there be a good God with so much evil in the world? And the first question we should ask when that comes up is, well, what do we mean by evil? What do you mean by evil? In order to adequately address that issue, I have to define something else. And to do that, you're going to take a quiz right now, okay? And that's by a show of hands. I want you to answer these questions. There are two types of questions, two types of issues that have been illustrated by this quiz. What are they? What different types of things? Well, one way to classify them is there are some that we all agreed on, and there are some that we didn't all agree on. Okay, that's a clue. Here it is. We had the two types of questions are objective questions and subjective questions. And that's the first thing that we have to kind of get a handle on this morning. The difference between objective and subjective. Objective means that the truth resides in the thing itself. Subjective means that the truth value of a statement or an idea resides in a person, in me. So to say that water is composed of 2 atoms of hydrogen and 1 of oxygen, which is what H2O means, that is something, a claim that is made about the water molecule itself. Whether I have a different opinion doesn't matter in the claim, the truth claim, that is characteristic of that water molecule. However, chocolate is the best flavor of ice cream. Does that really have anything to do with ice cream? No, it has to do with me and my opinion of the ice cream and my personal tastes and preferences. And that's the difference between subjective and objective. Objective is dealing with the thing itself. Subjective is dealing with a subject who has opinion or view of that thing.
First thing that I need to clarify is what I mean by objective morality. And this is really critical because people get this confused all the time. When we say that morality is objective, we mean that moral qualities are characteristics of the behaviors themselves. So if rape is wrong, it's because there's something about rape that's wrong, the object, if you will. In this case, the object is an action. And it's not something about the one who's perceiving the object or the subject. Rape isn't wrong because I believe it's wrong. It's not wrong because my culture says it's wrong. It's not wrong because my genes have tricked me into believing it's wrong because of evolution. If rape is objectively wrong, then it is wrong in itself, irrespective of anything anybody else thinks. The whole world could think it's right for whatever reason, yet if rape is objectively wrong, it would still be wrong regardless of what people think. That's what I mean when I say objective morality. It's like grass is green. Well, when I say grass is green, that statement is true if the grass actually is green, not because I see it or I believe it or anything like that, or because we've defined it as a culture that way.
So here it is. The objective morality means that the moral qualities reside in the thing itself, in the action itself, not my opinion of those. A great example, a clear example, is the Nuremberg trials. The Nazis argued that, hey, our culture thought we were doing a virtuous thing by exterminating the undesirables. You know, the Jews and the feeble and you know, the handicapped and so forth. Yes, and it was only because the Germans lost the war that the victors said, no, what you were doing is wrong. Now, looked at it in an objective way, we say no, and this was the way the argument went at those trials. Said no, genocide is wrong regardless of who's in power or anybody's opinion of it. It's wrong, period. Even if the Nazis had won the war. The next question is, why is that true? If that is true, why is it true? How can that be true?
How do you know a good bowler from a bad bowler? How do you know a good bowler from a bad bowler? So here we have our terms good and bad. Notice we're not using them in a moral sense, but we're using them as a way of measuring something, okay? The way you know a good bowler from a bad bowler is a score. That is, there has to be a system of scorekeeping for you to make sense of whether a bowler is doing a good job or a bad job, and that's true in all sports, okay? Now, what this teaches us is the words good and bad, however they happen to be used, are words that depend on some scoring system. Lewis said a good portrait is good by comparing it to the original. So you make a portrait of Mr. Kokel. Is that a good one or not? Let's look at his face and see if the portrait matches up. So whenever you have the words good or bad, you have to have some kind of standard to measure the good or bad of this other thing. Now, we are talking about good and bad morally, all right? We are talking about how certain actions or behaviors or thoughts or whatever happen to be good or bad in themselves. Well, how do you know when anything is good or bad? You have to have a scoring system. If somebody has broken the rules, there has to be a set of rules to be broken. So whenever you say that something is objectively good or bad, you are implicitly indicating that they have either conformed to a set of rules, good score, or they have broken something in those rules, bad score. This is what makes our language about morality coherent, that we have some understanding of what good and bad means attached to a reference point. Okay, so here's the question, and here's where I'm going to cash this out. Given that we are talking about transcendent objective morality, not just personal opinions, but transcendent morality, in order to say that something is transcendently right or wrong, good or bad, you must have a transcendent scoring system. If you don't have a transcendent scoring system, then it makes no sense to say something is good or bad. All you're doing is just reporting personal autobiography. The key question then is, where did the scoring system come from? Now, in this case, evolution is not going to help you, and it's the place that most people jump to. Oh, evolution can give us that because morality has a survival benefit, but that's not going to work here. And the reason is all evolution can do is make you believe something, if it can do that even. It can make you believe that rape is wrong. It can't make a rape wrong in the objective sense. Just like it can't make kindness a virtue. It might trick us into believing kindness is a virtue so we can get our genes into the next generation, but it can't make kindness virtuous. Something else does that. If kindness is a virtue, if rape is wrong, and a whole host of other rights and wrongs, there's got to be a system that is above everything that's not dependent on evolution. Evolution can only give you subjectivistic, relativistic morality. That's it. But if we're talking about objective morality, there's got to be an objective system of scoring that comes from a transcendent source that is the appropriate authority for establishing the rules for everybody else.
Greg Koukl was explaining that if we have such a thing as a transcendent moral law that applies objectively, regardless of anyone's opinion, that can't be due to me. It doesn't come from myself, my own opinion, my culture, my government, or my genes. And he also said that such a scoring system, such a moral law, must come from an appropriate authority. So, for instance, do I have an obligation to care for the earth? To not, burn all the forests down and kill all the baby seals. Do I have some kind of an obligation to care for the earth? Well, if I do, the obligation is not to the earth itself, an inanimate object. The obligation would be to some person, maybe mankind in general. I have an obligation to mankind, or maybe I have an obligation to Earth's creator. But I don't have an obligation to the rocks and the mountains and the trees themselves. An objection comes into here now is people disagree about what is right and wrong. So how can you say there is anything like an objective moral law that transcends people and culture? Okay? People disagree, right? We disagreed about the dog sleeping outside. So what's the conclusion from that that's implied? If I say, well, yeah, people disagree about morals. Well, the implied conclusion is that there's no correct answer. People disagree, therefore there's no answer. Is that a proper conclusion? Not necessarily. Just because a bunch of kindergartners disagree about what 3 plus 5 equals doesn't mean that there isn't a right answer. And the same thing when it comes to moral issues. Just because people disagree or cultures disagree doesn't mean there's no right answer. Now that may be the case, but you have to go about looking in a different way. You can't just point out that people disagree. If there can be a correct answer, then at least some moral issues are objective. And for this argument to succeed, all we need is one. All we need is one moral issue that is truly objective, realizing that some are not. So here's one that I think is interesting from our own country's heritage. From the Declaration of Independence, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. What did the framers mean by that? Self-evident. Well, what they meant was that there is some kind of moral law that it transcends government. And that's what they were appealing to. They were saying that there is a law above the King of England that judges his actions, and we are following that law. Martin Luther King did the same thing. He made the same argument. He said, these laws are unjust that we're protesting. They're being judged by a law that's transcendent, a moral law transcendent to that.
And our founding fathers finished that statement, all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator. Exactly. It was the acknowledgement of the Creator.
Yeah, so they even went further and made it explicit. So that's what we're talking about here. And it seems like we have some assumptions that there is such a thing. You know, certainly in our country's heritage. Sometimes called natural law. Now, some people bristle at that. You know, like what George just said. Endowed by their creator, you know, that you're smuggling God into things. So an atheist would say, you know, you're saying that I need God in order to be moral or be good? I don't think so. And so these are some billboards that have actually been up in various states from the atheists saying we don't need God to be good. In fact, a lot of atheists are better than Christians. And so to say that you need God in order to explain morality and have people good misses the point. Now that's what I'd like you to discuss at your tables right now. Is it possible to be good without God? Yes, it's possible to be good without God. See lots of atheists that are very generous, loving, kind, helpful, they do good things. But they're doing that without a belief in God. So they can be good without a belief in God. Does good make any sense without the existence of God? That's the issue we're talking about. Does the notion of good and evil make any sense if God doesn't exist? Okay. No, that's the argument today that we're considering. You see the distinction? So the atheist is missing the point, you know, by his billboard. We're not saying that an atheist, someone who doesn't believe in God, cannot be good. He can.
When we say that something is right or wrong, we have to ask ourselves the question whether we are talking about the thing itself, the action in this case, say rape, or are we talking about ourselves when we say that rape is wrong? If we mean that the rape itself is wrong, that means the action, or the object in this case, has the quality of wrongness. And no matter who's viewing it, whatever subject is viewing it, then it's still just as wrong. No matter what time it happens in history, no matter what culture it happens in, no matter what the views of the individual doing the rape or aware of the rape happen to be, it's still wrong because the wrongness is in the rape. That's objectivism. Now, some atheists want to claim that there is objective morality in that sense, but there is no God. And the question I'm going to ask then is, how is it that there can be an objective moral wrong, which entails obligation to us to obey the principles in question, when there is no authority that undergirds it? That's the grounding question. What is it that makes rape wrong? What obligation do we have regarding that? How is that obligation adjudicated? I mean, who holds us responsible for the wrong we do if, in fact, there is no God? And the best, simplest illustration that I can offer to get quickly to the point is, if I picked up the newspaper and I read an article in the newspaper, and somebody said, "Who wrote the article?" And I said, "Well, nobody wrote the article." You would think that's strange, because articles are the kinds of things that require writers. And it wouldn't help if I responded, "Listen, I can read just fine. I could read better than you can read." That doesn't answer the question. Atheists say I can be good just fine without God. I could even be better than you. But that misses the point. The point is whether the concept of goodness is possible without an author to it, just like the concept of articles is possible without an author to it. Michael Shermer likes to ask the question, would you still be good if God didn't exist? And my response to that is, I'll answer that question if you answer my question. My question is, would you still be faithful to your wife if you were never married? Well, of course, his response is that doesn't make any sense, because faithfulness doesn't apply. Faithfulness in marriage doesn't apply if you're not married, and never have been. By the same token, the concept of goodness doesn't apply. Moral law doesn't apply without a moral lawmaker. So an atheist can be good without a belief in God. They can deny God and still act in a way that is moral, humanly speaking. But an atheist can't be good without God, because without God as grounding, there is no good. No objective right and wrong, merely subjective feelings and opinions, and that's the end of it.